So I thought I'd bring the camera around so that you can kind of see what I'm doing here. You see these nice thick grooves here. It's not real important that the paint soaks in, other than the fact that we're using the paint to kind of seal up the wood. You know, it's kind of rough, it's splintery, it's reclaimed wood. We're not going to put any time into sanding this because that would completely defeat the purpose. So what we're going to end up doing to make that, see, here's this, let me show you kind of something here that I use a lot. I've never seen anybody do this on a video. I'm sure there's videos on it, but I kind of had to learn the hard way. So I'm getting a lot of product down here on this wood, and it's sinking into some of those holes, but some of them not, right? I'm not gonna break my back to get the product to soak up in there. It's not really all that important, to be honest. In fact, the more I fill that in, the harder it's gonna be to, get the stain over the top of this to distress it. But when I want to come back in and get some highlights in here, see the brush is already, we've already knocked out all the real wet product. But if I move it onto something that's dry, I get that real dry stroke in there. So it is covering, it's just real dry. So sometimes you can use that effect, especially when you're working on something like this, you want to have that nice solid distress look. You can get that dry effect just by hitting the high points with a dry brush, knocking a lighter color of product over the top of whatever it is that you're working on, and that'll give you kind of a little bit of a highlight. So if you're trying to accentuate like this would be a fantastic spot right here. So we've got some breakaway here on an old knot, so you can see the curvature of the knot, but it's laminate, so it's not very deep, but then the grain is raised because it's just been sitting outside for so long, it's starting to fall apart. So I want to get some paint kind of saturated into those grooves, but this would be a good spot to really accentuate with, a nice wet coat of stain down in there, and then coming back and using another white. I'm already using a bright white, so you probably want to use something that's just a slightly different shade. Even a different color would be okay. And dry brush those high spots with a different color, just to give it, like a contact point and some wear. See, even right here, we've got, man, that looks like it's Bondo, don't care. Right over the top of it. And again, we got another one of these tooling lines, and that's another spot that would be really good to hit with a dry brush right over that tooling line right there, where they join the two pieces of glulam together and give it a high ridge and kind of exacerbate the fact that it's an imperfect piece of lumber, right? So this product that we're using is what I had on hand. It was kind of the point. This is exterior grade Behr E600 satin. It's out of the bucket white. There's no tint in it. It could be tinted, but what I prefer is the least amount of sophistication in the project. So whatever you can grab off the shelf or whatever you have on hand that's super easily accessible without putting any money into it. So you may have issues if you're mixing oil-based and water-based paints. Sometimes those can have problems, but then, if you're looking for something that cracks and gives that broken up look, you can even buy kits to kind of create that effect. A lot of times it's not necessary because it's just adding the right combination of paints and the right layers to kind of give you that effect. So we're just about done with this layer. We're on the second side. I'm going to finish up the edges and trims, and then we're going to pour in our weathered gray Varathane stain, and we're going to apply this just as soon as these boards are kind of dry to the touch. This stuff dries in about 15 minutes. It doesn't take long. I noticed with the test project that we did that the stain, because they're both water-based, kind of made the undercoat a little bit soft, and kind of in some cases blended the white into the gray, and it kind of washed the gray out, which was okay. Again, doesn't, you know, we're not going for perfect, we're looking for distressed. So should look like these pieces of lumber have just had it. And if you do the job right, it'll look like you couldn't have put more. It'll look like, even though you put a lot of energy into it, it'll look like you couldn't have put any less energy into it, and that's the style we're shooting for. All right, let me cut away and we'll come back in just a moment.